subscribe, like, comment and share to support the channel. Thank you for the support.
Carmen couldn't believe that Dakia's own brother was the one responsible for her kidnapping. She explains to them with an annoyed look on her face that she had received a marriage offer from the Dragon Kingdom. And since she was next in line to succeed the role of the family head, her brother wanted to use the offer as an excuse to get rid of her. Marnak thought about it but knew that there was something else, because in the first place for nobles, mages were not welcomed. We turn to Dakia's childhood as the author explains that nobles usually hate mages. To be more accurate, when it comes to noble families, they hate birthing mages into the family. The first obvious reason is because of the natural tendencies of mages. Not only is it difficult to teach them basic manners, but they also tend to be self-centered. The power they gain for being nobles lead to accidents that are hard to deal with. The second reason why mages shouldn't be in control of power is because of an old folktale. This story is from before the ancient empire, a story passed down from each generation about the age of twisted mages. Due to a strong belief in this story, most species in this world hate having mages take on positions of power. That's why when she told Marnak and Carmen that she was pursuing one of the 4 High Lord positions of the Northern Kingdom, unless she were to kill her own brother to take on that powerful position, Marnak was intrigued about how she would carry out such an impossible task. But of course, that would be the case if she only told that story once. We return to the present where Dakia was looking at Marnak with an upset face as he turned around from her. It turns out that she had been telling the same story from the moment they met till nightfall. She even asked them if they were still paying attention to her story anymore. Carmen summarizes the story she's been telling them, and figured that her brother was using the marriage as an excuse but that she suspected that people around her were trying to sell her off to the Dragon Kingdom. Dakia tells him that he was correct while Marnak tells her that they tried their best to listen to her story, reminding her that this was the 3rd time she had told them, hoping that she would understand why they had trouble paying attention this time. He even nervously points out to her that while telling her story once again, her meat she was cooking had burnt. He then hands over a freshly cooked one to Dakia. Dakia was thankful it was the new food as Marnak tells her that she would be better at grilling meat the next time, but reminded her that it could only happen if she reduces how much she talks while cooking. Dakia couldn't fight back as she simply chewed onto her new meat while having that same annoyed expression as she knew that Marnak was right. As the night went on, Dakia soon asked the boys if she could make them an offer. Play the Shark Tank music. Marnak knew that it was pretty obvious that she would make them an offer. Dakia tells them that she wanted to go to Beatus, which was a part of the Iramal family's territory. Marnak closed his eyes as he expected this to happen while Dakia slowly revealed how much she was going to pay them. "Your weight in gold," was her answer. This answer was enough to snap Marnak's eyes wide open as he started to smile all weirdly. He knew that the High Lord's family would be something else, as they were super generous. But his concern right now was that Carmen was his current client. In order to escort Dakia, Carmen's journey of finding his mother will be delayed. He recalled that Carmen had even managed to save Mother's hand from being burnt to a crisp. So if Carmen chooses to continue moving west, Marnak decides to respect his choice and give up on the gold. Mother interrupts his thoughts as Marnak questions her words. She wanted our boy to overeat right now so he would increase his own weight. Marnak couldn't believe it. He knew that Mother liked gold, but wondered if she would like to see her son turn obese. With a clenched fist, Carmen had finally made a decision that made Dakia and Marnak happy. He tells Dakia that since they were involved, they would take responsibility until the end, as that was the only way to live up to Valtus's name. As they traveled through the snowy lands, Marnak tells the group that he spots a village up ahead, much to their delight. As they cheerfully made their way towards it, Dakia spoke out, hoping that they would have a chance to bathe in some hot water. The scene changes to the village tavern, where Carmen was talking to the host while Dakia and Marnak were discussing the weight of their stuff. Carmen returns to inform them that their rooms were at the end of the 3rd floor corridor and that he had even asked for them to prepare the bathwater. So he tells them to hurry up and get washed, and to eat together. "Wow!" shouted Dakia as she stares at a variety of tasty dishes on the table. Marnak on the other hand was upset over the fact that he wished he still had his sense of taste. But as he ate the food, Mother called out to him just as an argument was breaking out in the tavern. Marnak spots another patron of the tavern blatantly harassing the waitress, asking her to sit her pretty ass down for a bit with them. A man with a beard and mohawk appears and tells the man to please avoid causing a scene at their establishment. But the man wasn't budging at all and continued to shout at them. Carmen overhears the fight as well, asking Marnak if they should go help, but he tells him that one of them had already gone over. The harasser was finally silent thanks to a powerful fist into his mouth. Dakia had appeared and instead of words, she chose violence, landing a straight uppercut onto the man's face. But her attacks don't stop as she sends one more powerful blow at the lil bitch, sending him flying back. His companions couldn't believe what was happening and immediately stood up while calling Dakia a bitch. One of them wonders who Dakia was as a hand appears on the back of his head. Marnak appears and slams his face straight onto the table. With his teeth shattered and nose broken, the bro could no longer do anything. Marnak simply lets him go with a scary smile on his face. The waitress and owner started to clap upon seeing that Marnak and Dakia had gotten rid of the troublemakers. Carmen appears as well with the last of the troublemakers, telling the both of them that they should tell him first before acting next time. After all, they were now in a party together. Dakia blushes and tells them that ever since she was little, she was unable to hold it in whenever something wrong was going on. But those words seem to upset our boy Marnak. He figures that she doesn't have anger management issues, but a righteousness management issue. Mother shouts murder at our boy just as Carmen tosses him a pouch from one of the goons. Marnak catches it and hands it over to the owner, telling him to use it to repair the damages and to pay for the broken items. The owner thanks him but he simply replies that the money was all stolen from these goons anyways. Night soon arrives as we see someone knocking on a door. Dakia asks who it is and it turns out to be Marnak. But before she could ask him what he wanted, our boy simply grabbed her by the face and stabbed a knife into the wall, just inches away from her. He tells her to listen to him and to be quiet in order to prevent Carmen from waking up. "Do you understand?" asked Marnak as he looked at her with a deadly stare. He recalls her statement from before where she told them that she couldn't just pass by when she witnesses something unjust. So Marnak warns her that she really needs to ignore it next time as he reveals to her that he and Carmen were being chased. He explains that they needed to avoid attracting others' attention, warning her that if she behaves like that again, he would have no choice but to injure and hand her over to the pursuers. Which would be too sad and tragic. So Marnak continues to tell Dakia that the next time she wanted to do something, she would discuss it with her. He then tells her to nod if she understands. Dakia simply did as he told her, which brought a smile to Marnak's face. Seeing that she understood, Marnak turns to leave and tells her good night. As Dakia tries to catch her breath, Mother tells Marnak that he was being too hasty. But he knew that this was something he had to bring up before a bigger problem arised. Which they would find out now. Whether Dakia Iramal really has compulsive justice disorder. The scene changes to a large mansion where a voice is shouting. He couldn't believe that they had failed to capture Dakia. A servant appears and reports to the man seated down that he didn't know what to tell him as there were unexpected variables. The servant man believes that in order to continue the quest, they were going to need more money. The man seated down couldn't believe that they needed more money. It's revealed that the man had sharp ears and markings on his face. He tells the servant that he had already given them so much money and tells him to come closer. He bitch slaps the servant who was revealed to be from a secret world organization called Illy. He was the Eastern Regional Manager Hylden. The man tells Hylden to explain in detail why there were extra costs, because it looks to him that Hylden had taken too many losses. The man then tells Hylden that he was dead, but Hylden remains calm, touching his injured cheek as he thinks about something. An image of his family came across his mind as he knew that his life would be in danger if he didn't get through this. For the sake of his family that was waiting for him at home, Hylden needed to man up or man down. So he gets into a prayer position, telling the man that the priest that worships the goddess of preservation, it was all because of him, the man called Marnak. But the man couldn't believe that they failed all because of some priest, so Hylden tells him to hear him out. He explains to him that Marnak was not an ordinary priest. There were rumors apparently that he had defeated a demon that turned into a giant monster in Gwais using only a single sword, and not long ago in Kelton, he killed a monster created from the evil spirit worshippers who sacrificed all the lives in Kelton. Marnak achieved that on his own and earned the title, Evil Spirit's Archnemesis. The man seems to be impressed by Marnak's background and understands that Valta's oldest son and Marnak were the ones that got a hold on Dakia. Hylden assures him that it was true. So the man tells him that he would pay extra, but wanted Hylden to succeed next time. It was revealed that this man was the Dragon Kingdom's third prince called Vadis Draco. Hylden had a nervous sweat drip down his face, but he held a smile as he knew that he had done it. He knew that his honey and kids were safe for now. Marnak could be heard telling Mother that since some time had passed, he was now filled with regret. He wonders if he should have been less harsh, as he thought of Dakia as someone who would understand. He did all this while feeding Mother in her child form. But Mother points her finger with an annoyed look on her face. Marnak understands what she said but wonders why she was worried about him being concerned with a woman like Dakia. He assures her that all she was just a client. But a few knocks on the door startles the both of them, disrupting their bonding time. Mother immediately went into Marnak's robe as he asked who was at the door. Dakia tells him that it was her. Marnak then tells her to come in. As she entered the room in her nightgown, something caught her eye. She questions Marnak if he was eating this late, to which he replies with a yes, as if he was a bit hungry. Dakia then asks for a seat as she needed to talk to him about something. But silence fell upon the two as they sat beside one another on the bed. Dakia was the first to break the silence with a question. She asked Marnak about the reason why he warned her like that was because she was a mage. Marnak thought about it in silence before telling her yes. Dakia lets out a deep sigh as she knew it. She had noticed the way Marnak had looked at her with his eyes, which was something she was very used to. Since most people who have gotten hurt by mages, they looked at her with those kinds of eyes, but she noted that it was a first. Marnak's eyes were full of hatred towards her. What was about how she should do better since they will be companions from now on. She continues to tell him that most people who look at her with those eyes try to do something bad towards her, but to be honest, she tells Marnak that if she were to witness a similar incident, she didn't think she could just easily ignore it. But she assures Marnak that she would make sure to discuss it with him as he suggested. As she stood up, she turned to tell him that what she said was why she came here. And that she was leaving now, but before she went, she told Marnak good night. But before she left, Marnak called out to her, telling Dakia that he had been a bit harsh and that he was rude. Dakia smiles upon hearing those words from him, telling Marnak that he was looking at her properly for the first time, which made her very happy. Marnak was glad to hear that Dakia thought about how they had made up, so there wouldn't be any grudges between them. Marnak assures her that he wasn't the type to hold grudges. "I look forward to this adventure with you," said Dakia with a smile on her face. As she left, Marnak thought about how in the end, mages are just people as he continued to feed Mother her snacks. He tells Mother that her foolish son is finally facing the truth he had been avoiding. But Mother shouts murder at him, telling him to stop talking and more feeding. The night doesn't stop to end as a group of thugs appear at the tavern where our party was staying at. A bald man kicks the door wide open, shouting if Marnak was here. He tells everyone in the tavern to bring Marnak to him right now, or he is going to kill all of them. Free experience points for our boy. We now turn to a man who felt that something was off as he read a letter in his hand. Setting aside the request to capture the maiden of the Iramal family who has silver hair and golden eyes, he questions what was up with the priest. The evil spirit's arch-nemesis. Seeing the image of Marnak, he figured that was what he looked like, but a voice shouted out for Sahida, who turns out to be this man. His member informs him that Marnak was here but without the woman. This shocks Sahida as he questions where Marnak is right now and whether he was looking for a fight right now. But somebody groaned in pain, asking Marnak to let go. Our boy appears while holding the bald thug that was harassing the tavern that they were staying in. Sahida immediately tells everyone to drop their swords, but they didn't listen at first, so he shouts the command once again with anger. The troops were annoyed and reluctant but decided to follow the orders of Sahida. Sahida couldn't believe that they had been dozing off when he was briefing them about the request. He knew that they were in trouble now as he slowly walked over to Marnak, who took notice of him. Taking a pause, Sahida shows off a pleasant face, asking Marnak if he was the priest by chance. Marnak tells him that he is as Sahida asks him if he could put down the thing that he was holding on his hand right now. Marnak complies to his request and lets the thing down, before telling Sahida that he wanted to meet the captain of the mercenary corps. Sahida hesitated before revealing that he was the captain of the Red Bear Mercenary Corps. The scene changes to food and alcohol being served on a table, which Marnak declines from having. Sahida on the other hand takes a sip of alcohol, dismayed over the fact that Marnak had rejected the food and drinks, as he was hoping it would make their conversation easier. But as he placed his cup back onto the table, he knew that he had no choice but to give up. Marnak then tells him that he heard something from his colleague who came to look for him this morning. He said that he wanted them to meet. Sahida became flustered over hearing that from Marnak. But he understood that it was regarding the scuffle that happened yesterday in the tavern. Sahida became flustered once again. His thoughts were filled with what he should do. Should he go straight to the point or test the waters a bit more? by implying that their target is the maiden with the silver hair and golden eyes? Because they've been struck by a curse from the organization called Ili. But looking at Marnak's demeanor, he understood the rumor that he was terrifying, and the thought of quarreling with Marnak was something he hated so much. Sahida knew that all of this was the fault of the Vice-Captain Pelguin. Sahida could only curse that man in his head as another member started to approach the tent that they were in. Vice-Captain Pelguin had appeared in a drunken state, telling the guard that stood outside the tent that he was feeling terrible. He shoves the guard to the side as he makes his way in, noting that Marnak had guts to drop by personally. He then calls out to Marnak, asking him if by chance, if there was a maiden with silver hair and golden eyes in his party. Marnak tells him that he was right about that, which was terrific to Pelguin as he tells Marnak to listen closely, hand the woman over to us and leave. Those words were enough to send shivers down Sahida's spine as his face was filled with horror. As Pelguin warned Marnak that he was going to die if he doesn't do as they say, our boy cuts the conversation short by cutting Pelguin's arm off before he could finish his threat and even before Sahida could warn him. Pelguin and the mercenaries could only watch in horror as his arm flew through the air. The moment his arm landed onto the snow, Pelguin lets out a terrifying scream of pain that could be heard throughout the campsite. Marnak tells him that he found it funny but strange. He couldn't recall telling Pelguin his name, and yet here he was, saying Marnak's name with such affection. As Pelguin begs for someone to help him, Marnak lets out his serious mode, asking him who it was, the person that wanted to track them down. Sahida could only curse in his mind over what was happening right now. A mercenary rings the alarm and announces to everyone that Pelguin's arm was severed. Ordering everyone to run to Sahida's barracks now, the mercenaries fiercely charged towards Marnak, telling him that he didn't understand the gravity of this situation. Tear him to shreds, shouted the man before his head went flying elsewhere. The other mercenaries wondered what was going on as blood flew everywhere. Pelguin orders them to kill Marnak the moment he takes a step inside, even calling out to Sahida. He tells him to save him as he struggles on the ground. Marnak slowly raises his chainsaw blade, as Pelguin begs for Sahida to save him. Marnak knew that he had no intention of answering his questions whatsoever. In that case, there was no need to spare him. But a spear appeared out of nowhere just as Marnak was about to slice a bitch. Marnak looked at Sahida and noted it was surprising as he didn't think that he would take action. Sahida tells him that he wasn't but revealed that he and Pelguin shared a deep relationship with one another. And that they went back 15 years. Mother calls out to Marnak just as Sahida attempts to stab him multiple times, which he easily blocks. Sahida could see that his spear had been cut apart, so he tossed it to the side to grab the sheets of the tent he was in, throwing in the direction of Marnak, hoping that it would block his sight. The moment Marnak slices the sheet in half, Sahida had run away from where they stood against one another, shouting at everyone to dodge. He turns around once again and orders his men to get away. But it was too late as a faint line appears on their necks before they could do anything. Heads flew and so did every piece of the human body. The men who were out of the range of Marnak's attack could only watch in horror as they witnessed pieces of their fellow comrades flying through the air above them. This sight was enough to break their spirit as they all decided to run away from the fight against Marnak. Screams of fear and pain could be heard as the mercenary group broke apart, running away with all their might. "Shit!" exclaimed Sahida as he finally found another spear in his hand. As he stood alone against Marnak, Mother started to talk to Marnak. He tells her that he knew that no matter what, he must bring the one who ordered the Red Bear mercenaries group to track them down, to light. See you guys in the next part. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support me. Thanks and have a good day.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the Voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.